Yakuza 0 engages the gamer with a dramatic gangster story and good side quests, along with some side activities and colorful characters. There are some misses on the UI elements and small open world, but overall, it does rein in great detail. We're here to tell you about that and more. This is Daryl.
This is Dion, and this is Where We Stand.
Intro! Roll the intro! Come on, don't make me kick your ass!
Let's hit our experience first. So for me, this is my first time playing the Yakuza series. I've heard a lot about it. Daryl's been pushing me, albeit a little hard, to play the series.
It was just like Resident Evil, except you brought up Resident Evil last time, and that's why I pushed you, because I saw the glimpse. This time I pushed you with Yakuza because I love Yakuza.
Exactly. So I had a chance to play it. It was on Microsoft Game Pass, and we dived in. It is off of Game Pass now, but this is my first chance getting to play the series.
And in my case, this is my second time playing through Yakuza 0. I played it the first time, I forget how many years ago. I played it on my PS4 originally, a long while ago. I think I was either still in college or fresh out of college, one of the two. Either way around, I had no idea what I was getting into, but man, it was a fun go the first time, and it's even better the second time when you see what's coming up in this other, or at least when you have more time to go around and do some side stuff that you kind of ignored the first time because the narrative kind of just, it kept bringing me back. Damn it! I'm like, I just want to go race some race cars.
Going into that narrative that you hit, it is very dramatic for sure. At least the main story, it remains dramatic. Actually, I'm going to say the side quests are dramatic too, just in a different way, right?
Yes, they're
Exactly. We'll get to that. The main story is pretty serious. This time around, you're playing as these characters as they first start off. And you see them kind of transform throughout the story. They do a really, really good job of connecting all these different characters. I came in, I didn't understand all these different families, the Dojima family, anything like that. So I had to kind of read and understand that, where Yakuza 0 actually is a game, where people have played the series before and have come back to. It's also recommended as a good starting point, and it introduces you well to this. I mean, you're playing through the game, you start learning these characters and understanding a few different elements. You start understanding how these people are connected throughout the story. Like, they start connecting characters as you go. And you're like, oh, this person's that. Oh, this person's looking for this. Oh, this person's looking for this. That happened throughout the whole story. I think they did a really good job. I do believe the pacing can suffer just a slight amount during the narrative, and this is mostly because you're broken up because you have side activities. This is a normal open world story problem, I would say, where depending on how many side activities you're doing or what you're doing, it can break up the narrative. Also, for me, not having an English dub version, that did take away a little bit from me because I really had to pay attention. The words are really small, and I had to really pay attention when I'm reading so I don't miss anything. And I like to usually play in a more relaxed fashion, so I didn't get to do that. So that did take me out just a little bit.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that. There isn't an English option in Yakuza, or the series as a whole, if I had to go that far, for a while, for the most part. But the voice acting that is there and whatnot in the Japanese acting is full of so much raw emotion.
That's good.
For the heavier moments, the side activities, if I remember correctly, everything is voiced for the most part, with the exception of like maybe the smaller points where they're thinking to themselves. Right?
I don't think the side activities are voiced at all.
Or maybe it's one of those things where they say maybe like one word at the start of a paragraph, like yep, something like that. Or maybe I'm mixing up some other things. Either way around, most of the time the acting for Kiryu, Majima, and several other characters is like, I'd say it's some of the best stuff I'd seen in a story of like this in a while, and that goes not just for the main story, but also the side quests. Somehow they're believable in both situations.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. When I'm playing the game, it is very dramatic, and they do sell you on the drama. Like when you see the character react and animate, you see exactly that in their emotion, and you hear that crazy yelling. You hear it in their acting. So yes, even though it isn't in English, they make the characters very believable, and that it's very realistic. Make you feel like it's very realistic, that it's dramatic. I think they do a great job with that. Let's talk about the side activities. It's not really related to narrative, but like bowling and dancing and karaoke. Oh, I loved it. Mm-hmm. It was a problem for me because I had to, move forward to beat the game, but I really like the side activities, and I could do them for a while. Like, they were fun. Like I did karaoke, because you got to get your little points that you can spend, and I did karaoke. I did all the songs. I love karaoke. It was just so cool. And you get to, press the buttons. The dancing was awesome. Like you had to I'd never seen a minigame like the dancing one where you have to move the thing and press the button. It was hard, but I enjoyed that. So it was challenging enough. Bowling was perfect. I only could bowl one time because I bowled once, and it reminded me of Wii Bowling, and I was like, I am out. I can't do this because I'm going to enjoy it so much.
It was unfortunate.
Now, I did not like the games, the arcade games. I was not a fan of, but that was the only scientific activity I didn't like. Even the calls, like the little call thing.
もしもし。そうだな。Yes! Yes! Come!
Oh, we can do
the intense lifting of the phone is just moshi moshi.
That was so good. Okay. The acting in the side activity for the calls, 10 out of 10. The acting, the girl, and oh my gosh, it was good the whole time.
You forget you're playing the same game sometimes. Like you realize this is a gangster story where you've been cast out of your gang for the most part, and you're trying to fit the pieces in and find out what really went down that led to everything that went down. I'm not going to go into spoilers here, obviously, but one does not match the other, and I can see why your point earlier, Dion, about how sometimes it feels like I think you were kind of just getting at the tone kind of can feel inconsistent sometimes, because if you just played straight through the main narrative, then you probably think that this is the most serious game on earth. But if you played like the main one quest for the main narrative, then like 10 side quests that went back to the main narrative, you'd probably forget what kind of game you were playing.
It's that crazy.
And it's not just really goofy. There's the side quests, strangely enough, and I mentioned this earlier, they can be surprisingly wholesome sometimes. Like you can be helping out I remember the first time I played, I helped out this woman who just flat out sucked at being a dominatrix.
Yes, I was gonna bring that one up.
And you have to help her. And you have to do it seriously, because Kiryu does not. He does everything seriously. He does not hold back. That's the kind of man he is.
Oh my goodness.
But then you'll go from something like that to helping some high school kids with a bullying problem to help in Majima's case, if I remember correctly, to helping a kid, get a specific toy in the arcade and whatnot because it reminded her of the visit she made to the arcade with her dad and this and the other. I don't know. You could go from laughing out loud to, damn, man, I didn't come here to feel. I just wanted to go bowling.
No, you're 100% right. And I just wanted to bring up some highlights. So there's these major side activities for both characters. And I really like Majima's, which is you're like managing this cool cabinet. Is that how you say it? Cabinet, I believe.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
there when you're there, you're like you manage these girls, you train the girls up, and then it's almost like, what's that game where you give the food out? It's always so fun. Another version of it is that for Overcooked is another version of it, but I was thinking of the original. I was thinking
Overcooked.
I forgot the name of the original one, but it is so fun. It's just like that, and I enjoyed it so much, and I was really into it. And I had to say, okay, this is where we stop. I had to stop playing. I couldn't do it because I had to beat the game, but it really did. It really did put me in. I mean, I locked in a lot of hours. Another really good one for me was the cult. Yopi cult or something. Oh, it's like this.
I don't think I did that.
It was very interesting. It's just so detailed, and it goes all the way through. And this cult is like just getting people to join, and they teach you the ways. And basically, you're trying to rescue a girl from the cult. It is so interesting. What's such a good, side activity. So they're very interesting. I missed a lot of them, but I did so many, I had to stop. So.
It's one of those rare moments, before we get to the next section, where it's like the side quests, they didn't matter, but you kind of had the feeling that you wanted them to when you played some of these, because in other single player games, typically the side quests they can fall into one or two categories. Either they're related to the main story in some way, shape, or form, so they're important by default, or they don't relate, and they're typically just one little thing you do, and it's like, okay, well, that's not memorable at all. Here, just about every side quest you do in Yakuza, you remember for some reason or the other.
Because they're very interesting.
And it's really hard. It's really hard to do. I feel like if they could have gotten rid of the gangster story altogether and just had this be some dude who wanted to help people around town, and I'd still play it.
Yeah, the side quests are that good. Just to voice act them all.
But again, this is a gangster story, and don't mind me stereotyping here, but you're gonna be throwing some hands. This game, Yakuza 0, and most of the ones to follow, with the exception of Like a Dragon, which came out recently, they follow a beat 'em up format. So it's weird. They kind of do these. I don't know how to describe it. You know how you remember Tales of Arise and games like in the Tales games, you're often exploring an area and whatnot. In this case, I forgot the name of the town, Kamurocho, something like that. And as you're exploring and doing quests and this and other, you'll come across groups of enemies. Typically, you're not running into them. They're shouting at you and sprinting at you. And they are fucking annoying. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's so satisfying when you kick their ass.
It definitely is. I was very happy when I got the ability to avoid them. That's all I'll say about that.
That's also nice. You mean the money?
So gameplay wise, this is a beat 'em up as far as combat goes. I'll be honest with you. I was not a fan of the combat in this game. I don't think I could ever be into it. It's too clunky for me. And that's disappointing.
I feel that.
I know a lot of people do like it. I didn't like it. And I'm kind of interested in kind of jumping right to like a dragon, just because I think I could. One, it has some English voice acting, which I'm interested in, and it has a different combat system. It has classic RPG, which is also not my favorite, but I'm willing to do that more than this beat 'em up. It's you switch styles and you got to try to use the best style. It's good enough because the story really carries you through that you still enjoy the experience, but it is a detrimental part. At least for me, I would have liked something a little more smooth. I know there's a lot going on with the combat. There's a lot of things you can do with it, which is good, but it just didn't flow for me.
Yeah, and that's especially true. I'm pretty sure I don't remember when Yakuza 0 came out, but I'm pretty sure it came out post Arkham, post the Batman series. I feel like if it had something more akin to that, it would probably flow, because there's a flow there that works for the Batman Arkham games. If Yakuza 0 had something similar to that for those combat sections, it would have felt a lot smoother, especially to me, because I agree with you there. There's a lot of times where I wanted to do. First of all, I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but I'm going to focus up here. Having a lock on is pointless.
Yes.
In this kind
Doesn't
of game.
help.
Yeah, it doesn't, because most of the time you're getting flanked and attacked from all kinds of all of your sides. Most of the time from behind if you're focusing on one person. And even when you learn abilities and skills or grab an item in the area because you can pick up chairs or stuff, even when you do that for like crowd control, it's still, you're 9 times out of 10 you're still gonna be whacked like 3 times before you even get to swing that chair, and it's rough. Now there is an ability, or there is a skill or fighting style that Kiryu uses where he essentially, becomes my brain wants to say he becomes like a rock or something like that. So when he gets hit, he can take the punches without being knocked down. But at the same time, that fighting style is also very slow. I was the kind of guy who liked the faster one, the one where you can like do like 20 punches in like 5 seconds and knock down an enemy. It didn't do as much damage, but it was more entertaining and I can move faster. But even with that, it was still clunky, as you said.
Now, I will say it was challenging at times where I actually turned the difficulty down on like the last bosses because I just need to get through it. I died like 3 times before I turned down the difficulty. But the game was actually challenging at the boss areas. Only then. It was not challenging anywhere else. But when you got to like boss battles, I think those were really good. Regardless of the battle system, the boss battles were extremely well done, extremely well prepared for, and set you up. Very dramatic and very exciting every single time, even though you fight the same guy a few times. That I didn't like, but it was still good. And then it still got me up, especially the first time you fight that guy. It was really awesome, and you're really getting interested, and then you're like, wow, this game actually just got hard for a second here. So I really like the boss battles as well. But moving on towards UI and world design, we'll hit both of those at the same time. I thought the UI was clunky, and it just seems like it's older and it needs to be updated to be something more modern for me. It worked. It didn't hinder anything. I would have liked a little bit something, more usable would have been nice, or just more, I guess, more appealing maybe. I didn't like that you go to a restaurant and you got to buy. One of the goals is like to buy all the food, right? And you had to do it. You could order them all, which was cool, and then you go to the drinks. You have to order one at a time and do it. It was just too much in some situations. So some improvements there would be nice.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. The UI definitely, it felt like, I don't know what they prioritized, but it felt like they prioritized
story.
Yeah, well, they prioritized story, but I was trying to think like when designing the UI, I don't know if they designed it more for functionality and just didn't dress it up well enough, or if it just didn't look all that appealing, but it got the job done. There are a few things in there that I didn't really agree with. First of all, you have an inventory system where you can hold drinks and food and whatnot, and stuff to heal you,
yes.
which you can get. The way you get it, I really enjoy because you're making use of the world. Oh, I need to get this drink, or I need to get this item, or whatever. I have to go to this specific store. I have to go to this convenience place. If I want a buff, I want to go to this restaurant and eat and stuff like that. It was cool. I like making use of the world like that. That's my favorite shit. But when it came to like how much you could hold in your inventory, well, that was the problem because you had like, if this game had a Resident Evil inventory box, it would be so much better with its inventory. Because that's how I felt sometimes, and you couldn't really even you could discard it, but it's not like you could discard it like drop it. If I remember correctly, you just threw it
just never existed anymore. It's like going invisible. It's like going into a vortex. It's gone. Whoop.
Yeah. So oftentimes, if I need to make space, but but I don't feel like running all the way back to a save point, which is where you can stash your items, which is actually, now that I think about it, technically the equivalent of the Resident Evil item box. The only way you can really mitigate that problem is by using items in your inventory that you don't really feel like using. I don't know. In this kind of game, I would have preferred more space in my inventory, or just carry everything on me.
Yeah, it didn't need a inventory management system in this game. It just seemed like a waste.
Yeah.
Well, as far as world design, I think it has some positives and negatives. I like that the world feels packed. There's a lot of things happening, but it is tiny for sure. And you're kind of going, you do go through the same places a lot. And I think that does it would have been nice to get a few more areas or something. But
yeah,
I think that's just also just a part of the times. We're used to these vast open worlds, and this is just a smaller, straight to the point option. But it's dense and filled with items, and that's not bad. It's not bad that it's filled. So I'm gonna give this kind of a null. Like, it's no equally bad and good. I'm kind of all right with it.
Yeah, and I could agree with that. It's I really like how it makes use again of a lot of the environments. Most of the story quests you do take place in various parts of town instead of being some of them are instanced areas if you're like going into certain buildings, but otherwise it's all out in the open. It's all out there. It makes good use of the world to the point where you're very familiar with where you're going and whatnot. Like you get to a point where you don't need the map anymore in some cases. Like, okay, I know where I'm going. I have to turn on this street because that's so-and-so's shop. That's so-and-so's bar. That's blah, 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 blah. And that's perfect. That's how it should work. But admittedly, yeah, it does get a little dull towards the end of the game because
you've been playing for 40 hours.
Well, you've seen all these sites before. Yeah, that's essentially it. Mind you, this is the longest Yakuza, but well, no, it was the longest Yakuza.
Yeah, was past tense. As of 2021, past tense.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember how long 3 through 5 are, but
they're shorter.
But besides them, if they are,
they're significant.
Then yeah, this is the longest Yakuza up until Like a Dragon, which much longer. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and head into our final thoughts. If you want to hit that off, Neon.
For me, Yakuza 0 is a game with a lot of serious and goofy moments, as we discussed. If you want a longer gameplay experience, Yakuza can fill that task with many things to do, many stories, and side activities to fully enjoy. The combat can be slightly basic, but fun enough and definitely challenging during those boss battles. This isn't a series I would really rush into. It's something that I would take time to enjoy. I would make sure I didn't have any other game releases. I'd play this in between, let's say, those months where we're not releasing the game. This is a time to enjoy the Yakuza series. Otherwise, I'd be more interested in some of the other games. So I'm gonna give it's an above average game, definitely worth playing. It's just a matter of when you play it.
I'd agree with that. In my case, Yakuza 0 hits all the right parts for me personally. Mostly because it jives with my sense of humor and whatnot. There aren't a lot of things in the game that turn me off, but there are a lot of things that are kind of archaic for the time. I say the time, but archaic by today's standards, I should say, when it comes to game design. And that's kind of Sega's philosophy when you really think about it. They kind of, every time there's like a new game that comes out and whatnot from the AAA space, Sega's always kind of like a step behind in their design. But for Yakuza, that's not a big deal because the story is phenomenal. The characters are memorable, and this game will make you laugh just as much as it'll make you cry. And it's essentially pushed me to be like, okay, now I need to play every Yakuza now. I need to play 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to go all the way to Like a Dragon. And I want to see that glow up over time. And can't wait to do just that. Whether or not that's all here, that's a different story. I'm not going to make any promises, but I am telling you, I'm fighting the urge to literally just jump into 2 right now, personally.
Alrighty, I think that's all we got for now. Thank you all for stopping through to listen here at DuoQ. If you think we might have glossed over something, feel free to say so in the comments. Don't forget to share and leave a like. Next time you're waiting for a party or searching for a lobby, feel free to tune in again while you wait. See ya.
Later, guys. You know, it's hard to believe that most people's first experience with Yakuza 0 or Yakuza in general is Baka Mitai. It's a damn good song, though. Kiryu's got a really nice voice.